Howdy pirates, Soulhex here, and I just wanted to make a video about the new changes I'm going to do for the FM fleets. As you know, there are dragon tokens in the current raid, which compose to be really good. To do refits if you needed to. I've already done refits to my dragons, and I think I did the best that I can do at the time. And now that I look at it, there might be some changes I can do that help it do better. But right here, the is my previous type of setup for my dragons. They weren't really that great to begin with, but they were something like special wise like this. I haven't done that much changes to armors because in the future there will probably be some new armor, so I'll change them when that time comes. But basically, this the house setup I had was I did have lower explosive mount, countermeasure loaders. Uh, I had a blade of armor on it. I guess I was worried about explosive mainly, and I'll get into what I want to do and what I want to test later on whenever the FM hits. High yield warheads because I thought splash, projectile speed, and building damage. Those are pretty. It's a pretty good special to have. At the beginning, I used the garrison battery. I thought that was a pretty good one to use because it had explosive damage, but I'll get into it later on. And then of course the RFX engine for the explosive reload and combat speed. So it's nice, special. It's heavy, pretty heavy, 32% total weight. So that's a pretty one. But now that I want to kind of look into the new tech that we have going on here. Um, so lower the explosive amount. What it does, it gives you 10% damage. But I'm not sure if it was changed since then or not. If it's always been 10%, I don't remember. But it also has a explosive range reduction of 25%. And normally, with the dragons had a huge range boost, on their rockets. And so this kind of reduced it to a moderate, mid-range. You could still you could still have range on it if you wanted to, but it wasn't like too close for comfort. But um, with this, we weren't able to snipe the what's it called? Those little destroyers and the FMs and that stuff. So and it also gave defense. So at the beginning, the defense seemed really adequate, but since they changed it to percentage wise to survival, from what I understand, the defenses really don't add up the same. Um, because 540 survival, it doesn't. I don't think it's actually the same as how it was before. I think it was 30% defense or it was a pretty good decent amount of defense before, but now it's not really worth it. It also does combat speed, so uh, I kind of do want to know. So right now it is 40,000 for just one rocket, of course. And if I were to put this full of rockets, it'd be increase the damage exponentially. But I want to see what the difference is between the damage increase of just 10% for one rocket, and then I could multiply that later on to give me the full damage and that stuff if I wanted to. But basically, how much damage am I losing per rocket? Per rocket for taking the load explosive amount off, because it's only 10% damage, so it's 48,000 right now. So let's clear off, and so it's 36. So basically I'm losing 4,000 damage per rocket. And for every damage does help, but are there different specials that are better than that? Because you lose rocket range, you gain some defense, not that much. And with the new tech that is in this raid, uh, there are better alternatives. So one I was looking at is the new Gallia defense system, and that gives you explosive and penetrative survival more than double defense than the explosive mount. You don't gain damage boost and that stuff like that, but you do get rocket reload, countermeasure range. This is a countermeasure and defense special. So uh, this that or it gives you better defense uh, than the low explosive mount. So you lose 4,000 damage, but you get better defenses. Right, this one. Um, So there's that. I'm thinking about doing that, but of course it's grayed out, and so that means that I can't have the countermeasure loaders. So what's the difference between countermeasure loaders and Gallia's is it system? Yeah, Gallia defense system. So if we look at countermeasure loaders, it gives you reload on all the good stuff, every single thing. It gives you rocket reload, and that's pretty much what we want. Look is what's the different rocket reload we can get. Well, this one has 50%, whereas this one has 40%. So you lose 10% rocket reload, but look at what you gain. You gain defense, you gain, um, I'm not sure what 77 range. So it's the same range on countermeasure. What about the reloads? Accuracy is 35%, whereas this one is 35%. So it's basically the same there. The anti-mort reload is 20%, whereas this one is 20 as well. So countermeasure range 62, reload is 20. Countermeasure range is 62, 20. So it's basically the same countermeasure stuff, except this one you get more defenses. Uh, so it kind of combines the lower explosive mount and countermeasure reloaders in one. You lose 10% reload and 10% damage, but that means you could have an additional special since this combines them. So that means you can have, those two specials combined into one, and that second special now is free for any type of damage increase or something like that. So so those you could combine, and see now you have one special slot, that you could put any type of, you know, anything on it. So you could do a splash special. Actually, I didn't know they stack like that. So you could keep the lower explosive mount on there, get the 540 and then the 1600, and have those stacked. But honestly, I don't like the explosive range, and you only get 10% damage. So that's 4,000 damage you're doing more of, but reduced range. Don't think that's actually a really good idea. I actually didn't know that they stacked. I thought they would, you know, not do it. So, in fact, if you do this setup, you only lose 10% rocket reload, and you get extra defense because of this. So, that's that. So let's kind of leave it at that for now. I think I have something different. I'm not exactly too sure. So let's go with the what type of armor special we have. Currently, I believe I had a mix of reinforced ablative armor and the regular researchable ablative armor. I think one of them had reactive armor on it. I don't know. It was poor decisions in that sense, but just know that you're between the regular ablative and the reinforced ablative. The only difference is armor weight and ship and structure deflection. So they're the same explosive survival, and also the reinforced takes longer to build than the regular ablative armor. So if you really want the less build time, then the researchable ablative armor is the best bet. But this one Takes longer to build, weighs less if you have weight problems, and you get 50 deflection in each one, which the 50 deflection is honestly kind of shit. It doesn't give you that much defense. Compared to 1600 survival and that stuff, it doesn't really add that much. Now I would will say this, that MX3 is the alloy armor to use if you want both of them. You lose 400 in explosive survival, but you actually gain the other side of that. So you might stack it full of explosive survival, and then you're weak to penetrative. So if you change it so that you can have both penetrative and explosives, then you get 1,000 penetrative, and you lose 400 explosive. So um, that's one thing to think about. Uh, I'm not I don't really recall build wise. I think it's less than the reinforced ablative. Kind of wish it actually told you how long it was just by hovering over it. I don't want to mess. I don't want to create lag and put it on there and that stuff. So try to calculate it. So um, also note that in the future, this MX3 is really old. So who's to say that we might have a new alloy armor just like the COM 4? See there, we have COM 3. They recently gave us COM 4, so we might get MX4 that gives you, I don't know, what's the difference between this one? So that's 1,000, and this one it gives you 200 more. So, and then it gives you 200, it gives you 400 more corrosive. So this one might give, boost it to, say 1200 on each one, which that's actually pretty good. Let's look at the difference one here. So, see, and this one gives you 500 difference in ballistic survival and 500 in radioactive survival. So, who's to say what difference there is on this one whenever they give us the MX4, which I'm pretty sure they will. So, I'll probably do MX3 right now and do a switch later on for MX4. So that's a refit that I'll probably have to do. And hopefully, if I have some tokens left over, I'll use the tokens right there and just not worry about it. So then we go into the high yield warheads and stuff like that. This is basically the added building damage specials and that stuff. If you want that stuff, in these targets you do want building damage. Before, well, my thought process was you get projectile speed, you get splash damage, you get building damage. It's all three, really good specials. But seeing how these targets are, it just their mortars are high projectiles. They're really fast and they're hard to counter because of how fast they are. And the way to counter high projectile morts or missiles is you have to increase your own projectile speed. So 30% projectile speed is pretty good, but whenever it comes to let's go with countermeasures. When it comes to like Gales and Gale 4, Gale 3, their projectile speed isn't really that high. It's 400, whereas this one is 450. This one's faster, but not so much. And if you've seen my my video for the multi-shot and the Missile Defense System 3, I was testing them both. The projectile speeds are really that fast. So in this sense, you're only getting 30% of the 400, and that really isn't that cutting it. So, so I was thinking, what other types of specials are there that has building damage and projectile damage, projectile speed, I mean, and that would be high velocity rounds. Now they redid this where they put this in the retrofit lab. So you can have it retrofitted. Mine's only at rank 1 right now. And it's 3 days to retrofit it, which is kind of extensive. But I believe the projectile speed is what you add for the high velocity rounds. I don't think you get any building damage or wall damage or ballistic damage from it. I think it's just projectile speed, if I recall correctly. But so this one has 100% projectile speed. So the gales are actually at 800 projectile speed. It has better building damage and better wall damage, and the ballistic damage really doesn't matter to you. So there's that one. So this one you lose 5% building damage, but you also get the splash. Now, I didn't know the difference really between the splashes. I was like, okay, splash, yeah. Well, the splash of the um, rocket, I think is 12. Uh, yeah, it's. Oh, let's see, 6%. So, no, it's. Let me see what it is. Splashes, yeah, 15 actually. So the splash is 15, and I actually, calculated it, and you get a 24 range splash with high yield warheads. And those numbers, kind of like, oh, 15, 24, it's kind of, low numbers still. But I used the patrol range of one of my defender ships, and I was like, well, let's find out what's the difference between them. So, um, let me show you what the difference is. I took a snip of it. So, this is my lurker, uh, and so this is 17 range, but you can see the patrol range of what would be around 15. It would be this, and so that range is the splash damage. So if the salvo were to hit, dead center of that, the damage ring, you get damage all the way over here. So, and because of splash damage reduction and that stuff, they changed it so, you get more damage in the middle and then less damage here. So, but that's the regular amount of splash. So this right here is the it's 26. I couldn't really get to go to 24, but you will get 24 range of splash, and that's basically a little bit less than this. So the differences between the ranges are right here. It's smaller right here and bigger. So this will be the damage range of the splash right here, and that can be good and can't be good. So you know it's up to you personally if you want, because these are splash weapons, and it is all based on splash and damage and that stuff. But personally, I would probably go with whatever helps your fleet ultimately. And if you're trying to counter, you're trying to take less damage and that stuff, then projectile speed will help you against the mortars and rockets that are high projectile. So this will help your counters shoot down, projectiles, and it also will give you more building damage. I calculated the building damage, and the difference between the high yield warheads and the high velocity rounds is around 4,600 per rocket. So those are those. Now, if you want to go strictly damage wise, there's the siege targeting, and siege targeting gives you 165% damage at rank 15. That is way more damage right there. But the thing is, it's just strictly damage. You're not getting any projectile speed, you're not getting any splash, so it's just strictly damage. And in some cases, damage is all that matters. But uh, so, and then that's another option. But this won't help your counters. This will just only help your rockets. And honestly, it's probably better than high yield warheads because of the building damage. And also calculate the damage difference for that one, and it is around 75,000 damage per rocket difference. So, this one is the least damage. This one is 4,000, damage better than the high yield warheads per rocket. And then this one is 70, right close to 75,000 damage per rocket difference. Uh, but it's all strictly based on how you want to build it wise. If you want your countermeasures to work the best against these FM targets, I would probably go with high velocity rounds because of projectile speed, and because of it's retrofittable and gives you, better projectile speed right there. So that's right there. Uh, Also, siege batteries. So let's look at the batteries. Currently, siege battery is what I have on it, and that's because of I calculated it, much before, and I found out that you might get explosive damage here, but because of the targets are mainly buildings, basically we're just looking at the total building damage there, and so I found that the siege battery 4 does 5,000 damage better. It does more, damage than the MKX. Um, but if you do have weapon weight problems, um, the battery does total weight, whereas the garrison battery does weapon weight. So if you do have weight problems and that stuff, the garrison battery might be best for you. You'll take less, 5,000 less damage per rocket, but you'll have that weight, fixed. Also, the turret changes. Before, we were all at 50, it was all the same turret defense and that stuff. But since they changed the defenses, um, all these turrets, are doing so much different, defenses. So you have assault battery that gives you 900, garrison battery that gives you 900 defense, and then over here siege battery gives you 1100 defense. So that was one really kind of skewed defense change that they did. That kind of messed with how the how that works with the defense. So siege battery, you get better defense than the garrison or assault batteries. And then the same thing goes, if you don't have garrison battery here, you could go with assault battery. You don't get the penetrative damage and that stuff, but you do still get the turret defense and building damage. And you actually get better building damage on this one, and wall damage. I didn't realize that. So, but also, what's come out recently was the explosive battery. I don't have it yet, but I'm actually going to use it and get it. And basically, mainly because of turret defense. Because this one has 1800 turret defense, whereas this one has 1100 turret defense. Now, it's less weight, 25 versus 24 total weight, less building damage. So that's, it's a little bit something, and then 30% explosive damage. So let me see. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to be using, will be explosive battery. Not on my dragons, of course. I will be putting them on the Pretoria, I think it's called. I forget what it's called. Yeah, Praetorian. Yeah, I'll be using it on the Praetorian. And then I'll use just regular siege battery on my dragons, because, the explosive battery is limited. So, so far that's, that right there. And then the RFX engine. It's a pretty good engine. It's, it's decent, gives you decent reload and that stuff, but I was thinking, are there better engines out there? We have the explosive resistors and that stuff, and I was thinking Explosive resistors would be good. It gives you defense, but not that much defense, and you lose the reload, of course. And it's faster. It is faster. So I was looking, and we did get something for assault. Um, where is it? The assault engine. Now, this will increase your projectile speed, so your countermeasures will get better. Penetrative damage, that doesn't really matter because you don't have any missiles on your hull. The combat speed is better, 86.7, and it also gives you penetrative survival, so 700 defense added to it. So there's that one that you can use. And that's actually probably what I'm going to use. You lose the reload, but you get better defense-wise and faster speed, combat speed. So there's that one. Also, what I'm going to do, put on the Praetorians, are the penetrative sync drive. Now this was meant for your assault fleets because of the missile corrosive damage of assault, but the penetrative sync drives give you 1200 survival. It gives you evade. It gives really good combat speed. I think one of the best combat speeds there is, turn speed and that stuff. So honestly, this would be probably the best engine to use currently for garrison. Now I'm pretty sure we don't have a newer explosive engine, so I will highly bet that in the future they're going to do a explosive sync drive and that stuff, because they like to give us the same set for every single one, and we'll probably see a hydraulic resistor and that stuff, but you could a hydraulic sync drive probably, yeah, later on. But just know that penetrative can work for assault, can work for garrison, and then the explosive can work for garrison and for skirmish. So those two can be interchanged into those types of cycles. And since I'm not using my penetrative sync drive for assault right now, because I'm only using the corrosive sync drive, I could give the penetrative sync drive to my garrison hulls, and get that defense and that stuff. And then if I wanted to later on change over to explosive sync drive whenever they do offer it, which I'm pretty sure they will, then I can put it there. It's also not class limited and that stuff, so you could actually put this on any type of hull. You could put it on Conquerors as well. You could put it on Defenders. You really won't get that much benefit on them. Just the combat speed and the evade, of course. But other than that, that's probably what I would do, is put the sync drive on my Praetorian, and then I would change my engine to assault engine. So right there. So, and that's this is the type of setup that I would do to the changes for dragons, and probably what I would do for the Praetorian for now until we see the new targets, and also depending on the armors and depending on the alloy armor, I want to do a couple of tests to see what the executioner does, what damage it does, because I know it does splash damage when it's countered, and I know that it is I believe it is both missile and explosive damage, but I'm not exactly too sure for right now, so that's why I want to do some tests. And if it is only missile damage, then I could go with just a reactive armor, which gives you 1400 instead of just 1000 penetrative survival that the MX3 gives. And because my theory is if you could counter all the explosive, then you don't need it as much explosive defense. And so this penetrative survival with the assault engine will give you a lot of penetrative survival. And then I could stack my armors to be missile defense if I wanted to. But That's if I could counter all the explosive. And that's where the Gale 5s, not Gale 5, Gale 4 and Gale 3s come into play with projectile speed. So that the projectile speed can shoot them all down, if you can. Um, Before my projectile speed wasn't that high. So this next FM is going to be interesting. I expect less damage and that stuff. So this is the type of setup that you can. Now, I want to go back to lower explosive amounts. This is what I have on my, well, had on my dragons at the time, because of 10% damage. But there's not that many, explosive damage specials out there, for PvE hulls. There's this one, there's explosive upgrade and that stuff. And there's garrison battery, but there really isn't that many. And you lose if you want to take it off. You gain the range, but you lose 10% damage and the survival and combat speed. If combat speed is a big deal, but honestly, in these targets, combat speed isn't really that big of a deal. But I really always written off one special that I didn't like, and it was the Warhead Reloader. So the Warhead Reloader gives you 25% damage and increases your rocket reload 150%. So, and before the update, the splash update, it wasn't really that great of a weapon, I thought, because I don't think you could stack it with the RFX engine. I'm not sure. I don't know where oh no, you can stack it with the RFX engine. But I never really thought, I thought that there's other better specials, out there. But now that I look at it and look into it, based on the rocket reload was, I think, like 50%, or it wasn't that high as 150. So I'm not sure if it is actually correctly and that's the correct stat. I'm pretty sure it is. Because they did change all their rocket reloads. But you get 15% explosive damage. You get 150 rocket reload. The only thing you lose is 540 defense, which I think we have pretty much, supplemented that pretty easily with the defensive specials that we have on there. And then the combat speed. But if combat speed is a really big deal, you could easily, outfit your rockets with V rockets, or you could put a combat speed armor on, and this was 86 combat speed, whereas the other one is 70. So you're getting 16% more combat speed with just the engine change. So really, you're not losing that much combat speed with this change. And I would highly say, Warhead Reloader is better because you get the range back. You get extra damage, 15% extra damage. You get better reload. So that's probably what I would do, would be the, Warhead Reloader and change of explosive mount on there. I didn't really look into the rocket reload because I know that I'm losing some reload on this, so I want to go back and see. Hold on, how much reload do I have? Rocket reload is 240 right there. So let's go and see what the reload I had on it before. So that one's 50% reload. This one there was a different reload. I know that. I lose reload on the Galia. And I don't think there was explosive amount doesn't give reload. No, just damage. So, explosive reload 50%, mortar reload 50%. Rocket reload 100, so it's 150% right there. Explosive reload is 50, rocket is 100, so that's 150 reload right there. think it stacks. I don't think it stacks multiplicative. I think it's addition. I don't know exactly how the reload stacks, but um, so that one's. So basically, there is no change in the reload, because if we look at how it is right now, let's go back to this one. So there's 50 mortar and 100 explosive. No, there's 100 rocket and 50 explosive. So in this sense, there's no explosive reload, but there is rocket reload. Now we do lose 10% reload, and only 10%. Oh no, I said 150, right? There's 100 rocket and 50 explosive. So we're gaining a lot of explosive reload on this. Okay, so that makes sense. So in fact, this is better reload than, and if the stats are correct on this whole, on the specials, because sometimes the specials are not visually correct. What Kixeye would say. So, this would be the type of build I would do, and this is all based on, you know, the alloy armor is one thing that I'm kind of iffy on, but the other specials I actually am confident on, and I'm actually going to use in my Inferno Dragons, and obviously in my Praetorian, depending on what the new target is. And they won't give us a new target until later on. They want us to quote unquote dominate the current FM, from what the Discord says. Um, and that's just specials. The armor I don't want to go into right now. There's the XM armor, there's the M armor, there's the X armor. And currently I have the XM armors, and I think I have one charged armor on each one. And that was old build. It's a very old one. So what you gotta know though is that the XM gives you repair duration, whereas the limited armors, the M, the charged armor, they don't give repair. So, I would suggest do the D6M and D6X armors on these suckers, because they don't give defense, and they don't give repair time, and they give really good defense. That's 540. So, basically, one D6M is 2 XM armors, penetrative survival. So we're looking at that. You're getting right here. So this right here are 2 XM armors from the looks of it. Because, yeah, right there. So if you have two, so from one D6M and D6X, you will be getting the same bonus of 2 XMs. So then if we were to go to do D6X right there, I don't have enough of those, and D6M. So then this would, these would be 4 of these D5 XMs because of the defense it gives. Yeah, and so that means you're not taking any repair durations. So because right there, if we look at it, so basically right there is 4 armors of the D6 D5 XM. So let's see, and what's the repair time? So repair time is 2 hours and 55 minutes. Whereas if we do have 4 XM armors on it, what is it right there? And take that one off. Basically, that's what we had. The defenses are the same as whenever I had the limited armors on there, but it's 4 hours and 25 minutes, which that is extensively terrible right there. Uh, Compared to 2 hours and 55 minutes, I think it was. 425. Wow. And that's actually my repair time currently on my dragons, is that much time. I didn't think it was that bad. Not movement. Yeah, 255 right there. Oof. So yeah, if you do have them, I would suggest to do D6Ms and D6Xs, and I would do two of each, because they equal out having, four of the XMs right there. And then, the last armor slot, you can choose, whichever defense you are lower in, or whatever defense you actually get hit more often. Or if you want, you can do, put on a XM for, both defenses. A D5 EV if combat speed is a problem for you. Evade bonus. But I wouldn't do that much evade on these holes because everything is splash based in the targets. And basically that's pretty much it that I would do. Or if you want, go, small, you get some, survival, penetrative survival, explosive survival with the lower armors, D1M. They're low repair time. They're, I think, less than 100. 540, 445. So, yeah, it's like 95 less defense, but it doesn't have the same repair time, and it's faster to build. It's faster to refit, and it's faster to build than just having the D5 armors, because those D5 armors take a while to put on there. I think it's a day and a half, whereas this one is like 5 hours, 4 hours to put on. So if you're looking for time saving D1M, you get less defense, but it's helps you repair time wise and build wise. And I will also be temporarily putting on the D1M and D1X on my Praetorian until we get the new ferrite armor for the XM, because we all know how this goes. They gave us the folded ferrite CR, folded ferrite calm, to replace the D5 calm, and to replace the XM. Well, the folded ferrite armor was replacing. Where is it? Looking. It's down here. No? I don't think I put it on. I could put it on here. I don't know. But it was to replace the X. Oh yeah, it's right here. The charged Byzantium armor CR. So that's what the folded CR, the ferrite CR, it replaced this one. This one was a really good one. It gave you defense in both stats. It was also charged armor and 0 repair time. So that's one thing that's good. And we'll get probably a folded ferrite armor for XM that has 0 repair time and basically, better defense wise. So this one's 540, this one's 720. So yeah, we got a lot better on this one. So we'll probably see maybe 720, defense on this one, on the folded ferrite XM armor. So just be wary, that will come. It will also have 0 repair time, just like the other ferrite armors. But also will take the same amount of time to put on there, so like about a day or so. And know that the new hull does have 6 armor slots. So you could put all 6 of them, like the limited D6M, D6R, or you could whenever the new one the new armor comes, you could put those on there. So just watch out for that. So basically, that's the build that I would do. Uh, Also, let's go with counters. I know it's kind of been a long video, and this is going to be the last thing I'll talk about is the counters. Um, and the Praetorian and the Rock and the Inferno Dragon, you only get 4 countermeasure slots. And the Dragon, it's the front 4, and the Praetorian, it's the back 4. The countermeasures I will be going with will be Gale System, and then sprints, because you need sprints for the cold snap. And so, with the Gallia defense system, it's basically the same thing as countermeasure loaders. So we'll get that, and then the high velocity rounds will boost your projectile speed of these suckers. So for the Inferno Dragons, and this is where I'm going to have a change. Before I had like one Phalanx 4 on each one. I think it was kind of like this. And so I thought, well, this is kind of, obsolete. You have 4 Phalanx missiles on, 5 actually total in your fleet. Do you really need 5 anti-missiles on your fleet? Because they have a salvo of 9, a reload of 4.47, which it reduces because of your ranking and that stuff. So, do you really need 5 of them on your fleet? So I was thinking, we don't really need 5 of them, because I've noticed on my Arc Nemesis that I could deal with all the missiles. I mean, I can't shoot all of them missiles down in the assault targets, but they don't get overloaded. They keep on shooting, and they don't have any problems with the reload. So I'm probably going to do on my regular dragons, just do 2 slots for Gales, and then 1 slot for a sprint, and then I can do the rockets and the other slots. And so, I have 1 extra rocket here instead of a countermeasure, and I'm not having to worry about competing Phalanx 4s, because I could, on the flagship, I could put, instead of Gallia defense system, which I probably won't, I could put Proliferation 2. It has better accuracy, and it doesn't have better range. The range is 75, whereas this one is 77. So if you do put Proliferation 2 on your flagship with the anti-missiles, just know that if you have any anti-missiles on the other ships, that the Gallia will boost the range of those anti-missiles to be farther. So that's what I'm going to do, is put Gale 2 Gales, and then a sprint on the regular dragons, and then on the flagship I think I already have it set up, but I put MGS3 on them. And I'm not sure if 2 of them would suffice or not, because there's not really that many missiles. You do have the missiles from the Executioners. Those are pretty easily to shoot down, and then you do have the missiles from the Mastodons, but those don't shoot at you all the time. So you're working with limited missiles in the target that actually don't really hit you that much, unless you're on auto, and then unless you're in the middle of the whole target where all the Executioners are shooting at you, which I would highly suggest not do. But if you're driving, or if you're killing off the outer edge of the target, then you won't really have to worry too much about missiles. So this will probably be the flagship build, would be right here. And sprint countermeasure, and the sprint's 650. That's pretty good projectile speed. Reload. So this should, if you have 1 of them on each of your holes, you should be taking down the cold snaps pretty easily. Especially with the projectile speed and the countermeasure reload on this one. So I'll put the share codes for these. I'll take off the armors and I'll put the Gales on here, but also know that the Gale 3s I will put on my dragons. Gale 4 will be on my Praetorians. So basically all I'm going to give you would be the specials and then the countermeasure setup for this one. And I'll share the codes and the link the description below in the video. So sorry that this is a long video. I just wanted to kind of ramble on and talk about how I would build this, and hopefully this will help you and other people, how to do these targets. I will be testing later on when the FM comes to see if the Executioner is both explosive and penetrative, or if it's just penetrative. Then I'll see, because with the addition of the battle report, we can easily tell if there is any problems, if there's any explosive on the missiles, pretty easily. So, until next time, pirates, thank you for watching this video, and I hope it helps you a lot.